Okay, so it is time for my review of Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. Because all this time I've been calling her, I'm sorry about the glare, I've been calling her Rainbow Rowell, but apparently it's Rainbow Rowell. I absolutely loved this book, and it surprised me that it did. You guys, there's just so much to say. Oh my gosh, so much to say in this one. So, if you are new to my reviews and the way I do things with books, I start off with a non-spoiler version by giving you 3 cons, things I just did not love about the book, and 3 pros, things I absolutely loved about the book that are spoiler free. Then, in the second section of this review, I then go into a spoiler and we go into the plot and what actually happens. It is a spoiler because we go into as much detail as I can. And then the third section, spoiler, my thoughts, spoiler version. I think I said spoiler way too many times. Let's get right into this. First off, I ended up giving this book 3.5 stars. I had to just double check because I thought I gave it 4, but I can understand why, because the cons were enough. But I loved this book. Let's start off with the first con of this book, however, and the first con of this book is the swearing. Okay. Now, I have a little gripe with, I'm not going to name them, I honestly don't know who they are, but with the publishing company of this book. As you can see, this is a library book, and you can see that the top letters are, oh gosh, I'm shaking. I do apologize. The top letters are YA, and the reason for that is because this is apparently considered as a young adult book. I have a major problem with this because the biggest swear word that we have in the English language, the F word, and I don't mean Mr. Francy, is mentioned many times in this book, and so to me, I don't consider this a YA novel. If I had a child that was reading this, I mean, yeah, no. So I'm going to, for all intents and purposes, for me, I'm going to call it an adult fantasy. Okay, so that is my first con. I did not like the swearing. I'm just not a fan of swearing in general. It's just not me. If you do it, that's fine. That's your business. But I just don't like it. I don't like it in films, I don't like it in TV shows, I don't like it in songs, and I certainly don't like it in books, especially when it's not necessary. The English language is filled with so many great words that can be used as an alternative to swearing. It's just not something that I like, and it just turns me off. It really does. And I'm not going to go on a rant about swearing, but it's just, you need to know that, and it had to be in my cons. There's a lot of swearing in this book, and I just did not appreciate that. My second con is the spells. Okay, this book, without giving away too many spoilers, is set in a school for magic, where there are magicians and other beings, and the magicians learned how to do spells. Okay, you guys, can we talk for a moment? These spells, I'm sorry, Rainbow Rowell, I want to say your name right. I'm so sorry, Rainbow Rowell, but you guys, they're horrible. Oh my god. They are horrible, horrible, horrible. I'm going to give you some examples. Now, first of all, the spells have been put in bold. So I want to give you an example here. You can see there that there are words that have been put in bold. The bold words are spells. So it's easy to find where they do spells. Okay, one example of a spell is, it is what it is. That's a spell. I mean, enough said, but let's go on. The lady not for turning. That's a spell. Hair of the dog. That's a spell. Now, by that's a spell, what I mean is that's an incantation. That is what you vocalize. So you say, it is what it is. Or you say, the lady's not for turning. Or you say, hair of a dog. And it does things. The game's afoot is another one. I'll give you 2 more and then I'll stop. Stand your ground is another one. And one more. Gosh, I'm trying to find one more, which says a lot because they do a lot of spell casting in this book and can't seem to find another one. Come on. Oh, that is disappointing that I can't come across another one. Here we go. There's nothing to see here. Seriously. It is a very far cry. This book is compared to Harry Potter. It is said to be the adult version of Harry Potter. No, it is not. I am here to make my stand, to stand my ground, and hard disagree. This is the incantations are a far cry from Petrificus Totalis or Wingardium Leviosa. It's a very far cry from that. The spells are horrible, borderline pathetic. I'm sorry, Rainbow Rowell. I don't know what you were thinking when you came up with these, but I just find them to not be imaginative at all. I think there's even a nursery rhyme. They're trying to defeat something at some point. I won't give away what it is or why, but they're trying to defeat something. And one of the characters is casting, "Ladybird, ladybird, fly away home. Your house is on fire, your children are gone." Really? So just not a fan of that at all. My third con in this book is the amount of perspectives. I don't like reading books with perspectives. In fact, there is a book earlier this month. If you check out my reading vlog for week 2 of March 2020, you will see that I DNF'd a book because it had way too many perspectives. I don't like the multi-perspective style of writing. In fact, I began reading a book in January. It's my second book of the year, finished in February, called Personal Demons. It is a dual perspective book. This is like 10 perspectives in one. And my problem with it is that a lot of the perspectives are just not necessary. And I kept asking myself the question, is it necessary though? Like, is it really necessary to have all of these perspectives? And the answer is, no, it's really not. We could probably just cut it down to 3, maybe 4, the absolute maximum. We did not need the rest, and yet they were there. So those are my 3 cons. What are my 3 pros? Let's find out in just a moment. Okay, time for my 3 pros of this book, Carry On by Rainbow Rowell, and here they are. First things first, Can I talk? Sorry about that. The noise in the background. Okay. When I first had this book on my TBR, I said that this is an LGBTIQ plus book. Then I got to a point where I said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. No, it's not. It is. It is an LGBTIQ plus book, and I'm so happy that I've read my first one of the year. I'm sure I will read at least a few more. I want to say many more, but hopefully I'll read at least a few more. But what I love about this book is that it is an LGBTIQ plus fantasy book. That is incredible. I loved that side of things. The second pro, try that again, beep beep. My second pro of this book is that there is an enemies to friends trope in this book that I absolutely loved. The protagonist has an enemy at the start of the book, and by halfway through the book, they become friends. I don't think that this is too much of a spoiler. You don't know how, you don't know why, you just know that it happens. And I really, really appreciated that and absolutely got behind it. The third thing I loved about this book is that there is a magical connection that happens between 2 characters. And when I say that, I don't mean it metaphorically, I mean it literally. There is a connection through magic that occurs between 2 characters when they are trying to defeat something. I'll go that far. And whoa, it was epic, it was amazing. It was around the time where someone was saying, "Ladybird, ladybird, fly away home." I did not like that. In fact, I started laughing when that part happened because of just how great the rest was, and it kind of put a little dampener on that scene, but that scene was just absolutely thrilling. There are more pros that I could give this book, but honestly, I think we'll just stick with the 3. And so that brings us to the end of my non-spoiler section of this book, Carry On by Rainbow Rowell, this LGBTIQ+ fantasy novel that I gave 3.5 stars for. If you do not want to hang around for the spoiler version, I completely understand. Comment below and let me know if you've read this book, or if you are now interested, or when you read it, what you thought. I post videos every... Okay, so excuse me, then I coughed, bless. I post videos every Wednesday and Saturday and reviews Wednesday and Sunday. I apologize, Wednesday and Sunday and reviews in between. So thank you very much for sticking with me. If you're not going to go over to the spoiler version, letting you go with peace, blessings, and so much love. Mwah. Happy reading. For the rest of you, we'll be right back with the spoiler version, so don't go away. Okay, spoiler version time. Let's get right into it. This is a book, so we're starting off with the plot. In case you haven't seen my reviews, I talk about the plot, I plot. I talk about the plot first, and then when I've discussed what the plot is in as much detail as I think to include, then I discuss my feelings at the end. Okay, this book is a book about the protagonist whose name is Simon Snow, which, oh my god, can I just pause, sidebar there, how awesome is that name? And one of the characters refers to Simon by his surname, and it's just really cute how this other character calls him Snow. Snow. Can I have a friend called Snow? Anyway, I know it's a sidebar, but I just found it hilarious. Let's keep going. Okay. So this book revolves around the protagonist, Simon Snow, who returns to his last year in a magic school that is a magic school for all different magical beings. Magicians, witches, wizards, vampires, fairies, and many more. And so, really amazing. This is really the only correlation between it and Harry Potter, and the fact that they fight an evil person or an evil being, but that kind of happens in every fantasy. The spells are completely different, and we spend next to no time actually inside the classroom, so it's not Harry Potter at all. But anyway, let's just keep going. So Simon arrives back at the school, and he, on his way to school, he is driven in a taxi, at least to a point that you can get to, that humans can get to. And once he's about to get out of the taxi, he realizes that this is not a human, this is a goblin. So he kills the goblin with his sword, which I have, which I don't understand how he has a sword, why he has a sword, so I'm kind of running to keep up with him. Once Simon gets into the school, we meet his friend Penelope. They've been, seems like, BFFs for life, and that's great. But really, next to nothing happens. For about 4 chapters, Simon basically arrives at school, goes to his room. He shares his room with Baz, whose proper name is Bazil. Bazil is a vampire. Well, he's rumoured to be a vampire. Spoiler, turns out he is. But anyway, he's rumoured to be a vampire. And they don't like each other. Simon and Baz. Why? You'll find out in just a moment. Okay, welcome back. Just had to cough up a lung there. Not feeling that well. I do apologise. Let's keep going. Simon and Baz don't like each other. They've never liked each other ever since first year, but by this wonderful spell that is cast, this wonderful ritual that they do with an object that I forgot what it was, but some sort of object magnifies the 2 people that are meant to be together, and they kind of magnetically are drawn to each other, and that's pretty cool. Simon ends up with Baz, but they don't like each other, and there is a spell that is placed on every single room, every single dorm room, that basically what the spell does is it stops any roommate from physically harming each other, so one can't harm the other. It has happened way back in the past, where there was a student who, with their room being spelled against this, they attacked their roommate, and they flew out the window, flew past the front gates, and were never able to get back in. I love this personally because, I mean, I am completely anti-bullying. If I ran a school, that would be my first thing. If I had proof of, especially physical bullying, verbal bullying is not good either, but especially physical bullying, if I had proof of it, that any of my students were physically bullying anyone else, they would be out of there before they could say Quidditch. Just think of Madam Hooch there. Shout out to Harry Potter. Before they can say Quidditch, they'd be out of there. So I do love that. So they can't physically harm each other because of that spell, but if they could, they would have by now. They just don't like each other. Also, we have what I call the Romeo and Juliet trope in this book, in that not the lovers thing, but the whole warring side, the whole Montague Capulet thing. There is a mage at the school who Simon likes the mage, they get on really well, but Baz's family hates the mage, and so, yeah, that's another reason why they don't like each other. There's a little bit of politics that goes on in the book, but it's there's not a lot, but there is some. Anyway, Simon gets back to his room, Baz is not there, and we spend the next 3 to 4 chapters or so, somewhere around there anyway, don't quote me, looking for Baz. And Simon gets really worried and paranoid because the moment Baz does show up, he's going to try and do something to humiliate him, and we follow an obsessed Simon trying to find Baz. And it's just not fun. But anyway, Baz finally shows up at school, and let me tell you, if you ever DNF'd this book because you read the first 3 or 4 chapters and went, oh my god, this is boring, trust me, and I would not say this if I didn't mean it, the slog is worth it. Get through the first 3 or 4 chapters. Once Baz arrives, the action begins. So, Baz finally arrives back at the school, and yeah, the 2 boys, I don't know, they have a bit of a chat or whatever, but nothing really bad happens, just a bit of verbal taunting, that's it. And then life kind of proceeds on with schooling and stuff. And in the meantime, Simon and Penelope are trying to track down this evil creature called the Humdrum. Sorry, I have to backtrack. So yeah, that's something. Turns out the Humdrum is a twin of, well, yeah, more to it than that, but long story short, it's a twin of Simon. A couple of days before Baz arrives at the school, Simon is visited by Baz's mum, who is a ghost. She has died, and this is during a time where the veil between the dead and the living is kind of lifted. It's around, I think it's around Samhain, which makes sense. Or is it called Samhain? Anyway, I call it Samhain. She visits the room and is disappointed to find Baz not there. She accuses Simon of doing all these nasty things to him, but Simon says, no, I have no idea where he is. Anyway, Baz's mum tells Simon to tell Baz who killed her and to avenge her death, and Simon does this, and Simon ends up wanting to help Baz find who ended up killing his mum, and so they do kind of what in Harry Potter you would call an unbreakable vow. I mean, basically, there you go. There's a similarity to Harry Potter. Where they can't harm each other at all until this is over. So that way there's kind of a truce that's been called between them, not only verbally, but magically binding truth between I can't talk. A magically binding truce between them, which is really awesome. Then the 3 of them, Simon, Baz, and Penelope, head off to try and solve this murder and find this guy and all this kind of stuff. There are other things that happen that to me aren't as important as the fact that once we get into Baz's perspective, we find out something that makes me really, really happy. As much as in Simon's perspective, Baz is taunting him, Baz doesn't like him, can't stand him, wants to attack him, is going to kill him someday. Baz agrees in his own perspective, yeah, one day I'm going to kill him. According to Baz, or I'm going to kiss him, or both. This made me fall in love with this book so much. I was like, oh my god, he loves him. And I had the feeling, because he's almost obsessed with wanting to torture Simon, Baz is, from what Simon has been saying all this time. And I just keep thinking, there's a reason, and it's not because of the family war. So, and it's because he loves him, and that is amazing. Let's just skip right to the end. We find the Humdrum, we kill the Humdrum, we find the... Well, we don't kill the Humdrum. We find the Humdrum and we find out that Simon is called the Chosen One in the book, and he has powers that he doesn't even know about, and so when he starts to use them, things go a bit haywire, and born out of the haywire was this Humdrum. So the Humdrum is viewed metaphorically as a hole. That's what Simon, Penny, and Baz call the Humdrum, a H-O-L-E, a hole. And what do holes like? Holes like to be filled. So Simon ends up filling him with magic, with a lot of his own magic, and then the Humdrum goes away. So that's fine. And I wasn't really following for that anyway. We do find the guy who ended up killing Baz's mum, but I really don't remember what happened there, because again, that's not why I'm reading it. I'm reading it for the love. I love fantasy, and you guys know this. Generally speaking, the majority of my TBR, half or more than half of the books on my TBR each month are fantasy books. But I was following this for the love. And the love between Baz and Simon, it is teased so much that when they finally kiss, It was amazing. And oh my god, I just loved this book. And they end up getting together and becoming boyfriends. And yeah, after they've defeated everything, it's kind of like the whole they all lived happily ever after. And there is a book too. I forgot what it's called. Is it at the back? No, it's not. But I'm just trying to see if it's here, but I can't see it. There is a book too, and I've already reserved it at my local library, so really, really interested in reading this. Okay, we are already 20 minutes in, and I need to quickly tell you my thoughts on this book. On the whole, love this book, love the LGBTIQ aspects of it, because it's my first LGBTIQ book that I've read this year, and also my first LGBTIQ fantasy book that I've ever read. So bringing my favourite genre with my favourite type of romance, male LGBTIQ romance, into fantasy. Oh my god, what a journey. Had a lot of fun. Spells, terrible. But the fact that there's magic in the book is a good thing. Too many perspectives, I've already said that. But yeah, I love the relationship between Simon and Baz. The prequel to this is a book called Fangirl, which is apparently not part of the Simon and Baz series. This starts it, and then the next one continues it on. So I don't need to read Fangirl, but I will read the book that comes up after this one. But all in all, I think we'll end this here. All in all, I absolutely loved this book. And as I've said, I've already reserved book 2 from my library, so hopefully I'll get it soon. Generally speaking, I prefer to read standalones. I don't really like series. I'm currently in the middle of 2 series at the moment, but I don't really... I feel like I have no room for any more because I just want to read standalones. I have read other first books in series that I either didn't like or I loved, but I didn't want to continue on with them because I wanted it to be a standalone. This could be a standalone. You don't have to read the series, but I want to. I want to so much because it was just so good. So thank you, Rainbow Rowell. It is... You guys, I'm going to wrap this up by saying something that I said a little earlier, which is... If you DNF'd this book because you didn't like the first 2, 3, however many chapters prior to Baz coming into the school, grab the book, give it another go. It's time for a reread, get up to where you were at, and force yourself to get to the point where Baz comes to school. Because once you get to that point, swearing and incantations, which are really pathetic, sorry Rainbow Rowell, but they are, those 2 things aside, this is an amazing book. I could not give it higher than 3.5 stars because of all the things I don't like. I just couldn't. But it was amazing. And I highly, 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 highly recommend this book. Even if you're going for the fantasy and come out just loving the LGBTIQ aspects, which I did. I went in for the fantasy, came out loving the LGBTIQ aspects. Or... if you go in for the LGBTIQ aspects and then come out loving the fantasy, or you go in thinking, oh, I really don't think I'll love it, and then you love it, or you end up going in your DNF it anyway. Give yourself a go with this book. It is totally worth it. It is an English book, and by English I mean UK, so there are a lot of English references made in this book, but don't let that turn you off, because it is so good. I read this book alongside listening to the audiobook on Audible. Now, I'm going to very quickly say something to that point. I don't recommend the audiobook on Audible. It was a really tough experience for me to begin with. I kept going with it. I end up turning up the speed because I read much faster than the narrators on Audible read. So I generally end up going to either 1.5 or 2.0 with my speed on Audible. But the accent was really tough for me to deal with. He speaks in English, and it's nothing against the narrator at all, but yeah, I found it really tough to deal with. So if you don't have to go with the audio version on Audible, don't. That's just my perspective. But it's an amazing book, and you will absolutely love it if you love fantasy. Well, if you love fantasy, you might find it a bit silly, but if you love LGBTIQ and you want to see that in fantasy, pick up this book. Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. 3.5 stars. Thank you so much for watching. Sending you all peace, blessings, and so much love. I post videos every Wednesday and Sunday, and I'll see you very soon. Mwah! Thank you for watching. Bye guys. Happy reading. Bye.